everyone. Thanks for joining us today to learn more about our Polar Shakedown. My name is Annie Aggins. I'm the director of Polar Explorers, and here with me today is Keith Hager. Say hey, Keith.
Hi.
Keith has guided a lot of our expeditions and is a great resource, and he'll be sharing some information about the Shakedown shortly. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Our Polar Shakedown started in 1992 as we were preparing a team to dog sled and ski the last 2 degrees to the North Pole. There's our team at the North Pole in May of 1993. It was the first ever dog sled and ski expedition for amateur adventurers, and it was pretty exciting. What we wanted to do was create a world-class hands-on instruction to teach people who were not already well experienced in the art of cold weather expeditioning. We wanted to give them the opportunity to learn this before their expedition so that they were safe and successful and increase the enjoyment on the expedition. And we did that by creating a program that starts from the ground up, introducing everything that they'll experience from just eating and drinking to the more difficult things like navigating and figuring out how to move across some difficult terrain, and also things like navigating. This was a really successful shakedown in 1992, and the expedition itself was very successful too. And we've continued that shakedown since 1992 up until the present day. And we have a whole lot of fun with it. We have created 3 different ways to do the shakedown or to do portions of the shakedown. Here they are. There's our classic Northern Minnesota shakedown. This is the one that we do every February in Northern Minnesota, which has very polar-like conditions, and you'll hear about that a little bit later. We also have a training in Svalbard. It used to be the exact same as a classic Polar Shakedown. We added a few days onto it because we decided we wanted to make it also a ski expedition where we could explore some of the best parts of Svalbard. So that is a little bit longer. And then we have private and customized shakedown trainings. We've done one in Baffin Island. We've done a couple in Iceland. So it depends on your expedition, where you're going, or what your availability is. If you want to do a shakedown, but can't do it at the same time that our group ones are. Here's a little bit more information on those and some other things. So the classic shakedown in Northern Minnesota is instructor led. It's a combination of indoor and outdoor classes for the first 2 days, followed by an outdoor mini expedition. It's 5 nights and 6 days. For people who want a longer experience or who are looking to do a longer expedition with different demands, we have our Polar Training Plus. This is an instructor-led shakedown, followed by a couple days of instruction, and then a self-guided mini expedition. There are more classes and more topics and more time on the ice. It is 10 nights and 11 days in total. And then we have our OPT training, which is the online polar training. And this is something that you can do anywhere, anytime. It is an online one-on-one instruction, and you can choose from dozens of classes. We'll show you a list later on in this presentation. And we do 90-minute sessions that can cover 1 or more topics. If you want a topic in depth, it's good to stick with 1, but we've done up to 3 topics in one 90-minute session. So those are some options, and a lot of times people will do that online polar training in conjunction with a classic Polar Shakedown or the Svalbard ski expedition. They'll kind of carry it on once they get home. A few numbers for you that are fun. We have hundreds of Shakedown alums, and we have a great time carrying on that relationship and exploring some amazing places in our world, cold places. Over 275 of our alums have gone on to ski to the North or South Poles, and dozens have crossed Greenland. We get a lot of people who will do the Shakedown multiple times for various reasons, maybe because it's been a couple of years since they've done an expedition and they want to grease the wheels before they participate in another one. And some people do it just for fun. They don't have any aspirations of doing polar expeditions, but they want to take their outdoor skills, which are really 3 seasons, and they want to get the training and techniques to carry that into 4 seasons so that they can explore and do adventures throughout the winter. So who does the shakedowns? We get a lot of different people, but most of them are people that just want to increase their skill set or refresh their skill sets in cold weather environments. We get a lot of people who have warm weather camping experience, a lot of outdoor experience, but not extreme cold. And that's really common. And it's really important to get those skills honed before you go out and do something in the extreme cold. We also have a lot of mountaineers who are looking to add polar skills to their experience because they are going from mountaineering trips and they want to include some polar expeditions. And they're really two different skill sets. And then we have people who just want to refresh their skills, as I mentioned earlier. And then finally, we do have people who have signed up for an expedition and they need to show up for that expedition prepared and trained. And one of the best things about the shakedown is that you will learn everything about what you're going to be doing, but you'll also develop and figure out how you can continue training your when you go back home, how you can carry that forward to your expedition. So these are just some of the instructors. That's me on the left. There's Keith in the middle. And we've got a great family of instructors who have guided and instructed all over the world in our coldest places. And if you look down and just look at some of the expeditions, you can see that we've got experience in the North Pole, the South Pole, in Greenland, in a lot of other places. And one of the best parts of doing a shakedown is developing that relationship with the instructor or guide and having them as a resource that you can tap into. It's really phenomenal. Where can the shakedown take you? Well, where do you want to go? Most of the places are in the polar regions or other cold places, including the Greenland crossing, the South Pole, and by that can either be the full expedition or the last degree. The North Pole, same thing, only mostly last degree or last 2 degrees, by dog sled or ski. The Vatnajökull Glacier in Iceland, an amazing place that's often overlooked. Svalbard, a classic spot for skiing and pulking. The Shackleton crossing of South Georgia Island, which you should put on your short list if you love adventuring and if you love history. The Arctic Circle Trail in Greenland, an amazing place and an expedition that's a lot like a last degree in terms of distance and duration. The Die 2 expedition in Greenland, if you want to get a taste of the Greenland ice pack, but you can't commit a full month, that one is a great option. And then anywhere else that's cold and snowy, the skills you'll learn on your shakedown will take you to a place like any of these and anywhere else that's cold and icy where you can put those skills to use. Keith, we want to talk a little bit about how we teach people and how we learn together on the shakedown.
Sure. And we'll talk a little bit later about the next steps to joining a shakedown, which includes the application, placing a deposit. But once you're in the system and you've committed to a shakedown date, we've got some coming up in early 2026. You'll be sent some information, including an equipment list. We'll set up a virtual gear check with you that we do over Zoom or Google Meet. That'll be your first introduction to some of the equipment that you'll need. We'll discuss and demonstrate how to use all of that when we actually meet in person. We'll practice using that equipment. And we'll do that in a controlled environment for the first 2 days. We stay in a lodge. Allows us to be outside, building skills, developing techniques, and providing you pro tips on how to use that equipment and how to thrive when we're out there. After those first 2 days, we'll head out on a little mini expedition where you can put all those skills to the test. Yeah, so I'd mentioned the shakedown itinerary is built around the first 2 days in a lodge, and then the following 2 days in the field on a mini expedition. During that time, we're developing all the necessary skills to keep you thriving out there. You'll get guide instructed, instructor-led programs, an opportunity to get your hands on all the equipment, whether that's tent setup, stove use, navigation, and you'll put that to test for the days 3 through 5. And then finally, we'll return to the lodge for one final evening. You'll meet one-on-one with one of the instructors, and you'll develop a strategy for how to have success on an upcoming expedition and what you might need in terms of skills or equipment to thrive when you're out there. Some of what you'll learn is it's all about the systems. We have a system for everything. These are extreme environments where any small misstep can threaten the success and your ability to thrive out there. So it all comes down to systems. And we'll introduce you to the different strategies and techniques that allow you to create a system that's personalized for your comfort and your travel style. So packing a sled, there's a system for that. Planning your route, how often do I take breaks? How much mileage should I be covering in a typical push? What's a push? There's systems for all of that. You'll build kitchens, you'll melt water, you'll cook food. There's a system for all of that. You'll set up a tent, you'll practice site selection, you'll build wind walls, and there's strategies and systems for all of those techniques and essential living conditions. Waking up, going to bed, there's a strategy for that. There's a system for that. You'll have tent mates. Going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, there's a strategy and a system for that. Keeping yourself warm at night, there's a strategy and a system for that. And that might be different for Annie than it is for myself. And that's the great thing about having multiple instructors on these shakedowns. You get different perspectives and you can apply those to your own learning style and body type. Cold weather gear must work flawlessly. Yes, it gets stressed out, and modification is important. And like I mentioned earlier, different body styles, different characteristics, different movement styles require different strategies, and we'll introduce you to those. How do we move? What's a 3-pin? What's an NNBC? What's the best, and why do you use that? So hands, so many things to know. Yeah, you can move on from that, Annie. Face mask, goggles, all of these require systems. What's the best brand? What are the best models? What's the latest thing out there? We'll provide you some insight and some pro tips on what equipment to select and how best to use them and make modifications. Sleds, why do we carry 2 sleds? When would you carry 2 sleds? What's a sled pulling harness? What other accessories would I need? How do I implement that in my training? Anoraks and outerwear, so essential and very polar specific pieces of equipment that have applications largely because they're crafted for those cold environments. Sleeping systems, 1 bag or 2. Sleeping pads, 1 or 2. Is there an overbag? Do I sleep in a liner? There's a lot of questions that will help develop and provide you input and strategies on how to select a system that's going to work for your goals. And of course, getting out on these mini expeditions during the shakedown, you'll be presented with real challenges that mimic polar travel. You'll feel like you'll experience what it's like to put a full day of work in, pulling your sled for 6-7 hours. You'll learn the best way to train, and you'll have knowledge to go home and implement that in your own personal training strategies at home. If you've done it before, do it again. It's important to grease the wheels before you rely on them. And of course, with all of this, we want you to develop muscle memory and have success in your training and on your program. And a lot of that's built around being physically and mentally prepared for the different phases of the expedition. We want you to thrive out there, not just survive. You won't be successful or have fun if you're in survival mode every day, all day. Learn about the phases of these expeditions and the ingredients to make those successful. We'll teach you those, we'll demonstrate those, and you'll get a chance to practice those. Of course, being a great team member and teammate breeds success and the ability to thrive out there and rely on each other. So learn how you should be prepared. And it's not more, it's a little bit more than just pulling a tire, but you can always start there.
And that's so true, right?
What's the weather like? Yeah, the challenges of the polar environment. Well, I know that Annie and I have both experienced -40 Fahrenheit and lower in Ely, Minnesota. So it's the real deal up there. Yes. You can be sure that there's going to be wind and snow. And if there's not, there's ways to learn these systems and develop the strategies to be successful in these cold places. On a typical shakedown, You'll cover anywhere between 6 and 10 miles, statute miles, or 10 to 16 kilometers daily. And you'll do that over multiple days. Of course, there's minimal elevation gain during these shakedowns. That's not really the focus. But yeah, Amy, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. You know, one of the great things about our shakedowns is that we're simulating what you're going to experience in your polar expeditions. So whether you're traveling across frozen lakes, that gives the feeling of being on a polar plateau or an ice cap somewhere. And if you're in Svalbard and you're going over glaciers, that's a great experience for if you're going to be doing expeditions somewhere else that has glaciers like Vatnajökull or the Vinson Ascent or other things like that, Greenland. So why and how do you join a shakedown? We have everything can be done online. You can complete an online application and tell us about yourself in that. There's some spots where it asks you about your previous experience, etc. Give us all the information you can, because the best thing about what we do is building relationships with people. We want to know what you've done before. We want to know where you want to go with this, because that helps us figure out how we can make that possible and what kind of tools we can give to you to be able to do that. Reserve your space with a deposit. We do have shakedowns that sell out, so holding your space early is very helpful. And then when you register, we'll send you confirmation details, including the clothing and equipment checklist, let you start getting planning. And we're here to help you prepare and train throughout. So from the moment that you register to when you meet us on the training, we're always available to answer questions, make some gear recommendations, make some training recommendations, etc. We'll be right there with you. And that's, again, one of the best things we do. We meet so many amazing people and watch them do incredible things. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh, here's a slide where we can show you, hang on one sec. Here are some of our opt-in classes. So just take a look at these. All of these things are classes that we can go over with you. We can teach online. We have audio visuals for all of these that you'll get to have a copy of at the end. But really great topics and important ones that you might want to continue to learn about after you do a shakedown, or if you can't do a shakedown, maybe you start here and then carry on with the shakedown. Keith, do you have anything else that you want to add?
Nope, just our contact information is right there. Contact Annie at polarexplorers.com. Visit our website, submit that application. We look forward to seeing you on a shakedown soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.